people. So I just think in chapter 1 of First Kings, who are the main people involved? Who's the first one we're talking about here? King David. So what do we know about King David? Okay. And what's really interesting is it tells us how old he is. He's 70.
That's all.
He's not that old.
I'm
I was gonna say, wait a second, that's not funny, right? Huh?
During that time frame, that wasn't really that old, was it?
No, I don't think so. None of you had a good life, but what was true about David? What was his life like?
This is shepherd.
I know,
He was a warrior.
He was a warrior. He did a lot of fighting. Matter of fact, how was his?
He did a lot of running.
A lot of running,
Yeah.
a lot of fighting, a lot of womanizing, right? In other words, even though he was a man after God's own heart, he had a rough life.
Yeah.
Okay, so being 70, and after the life that he had, he was 70 and he was in bad health, right?
Yeah.
So, what was he really concerned about, do you think? What was David really worried about?
Keeping warm, it says.
Huh?
Couldn't keep warm.
Couldn't stay warm.
Yeah, that sounds real.
It does, it does. At work, I have to bring a sweater because I'm always freezing.
Well, he was worried about his comfort.
He's worried about his comfort. And really, David at that point is just worried about getting through the day.
I was saying that, he was worried about.
Yeah, he wants his pretty little wife to hold him and keep him warm. And what was true about Abishag?
Very beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. He didn't cohabit with it.
Yeah.
Is that how they worded it in the Bible?
But not intimate.
Yeah.
Her job was to be the nurse. And if you're gonna have a nurse, you just didn't have a pretty one. I mean, you're the king after all, and if you want a nice looking lady to hug you every night, there's nothing wrong with that as far as he's concerned, right? So now who else is in this story?
First, next one. Adonijah. How do you say that?
Adonijah. Okay.
Adonijah.
Adonijah. Is there yeah, Adonijah. Now, Adonijah was the son of who? You know, I'm so sorry at some of the names that people get. I just think we'll have when I see that name. Son of Haggith. So remember, I told you before, 6 wives, 6 sons. He had lots of daughters, but each one of the sons was from a different wife. So we see this incredible situation that's going on here. And we see that it talks about he can't keep warm. His servants say, let's get a virgin for the Lord and for the king and let her take care of him. And so they go through a whole territory of Israel and they find Abishag, the Shunammite woman. And by the way, there is I think, where else do we see that word Shunammite? She talked about elsewhere in scripture. We'll probably talk about that later. And so she's brought to the king. She is his nurse. And then we see Adonijah. So what is the problem with Adonijah?
Because delusions of grandeur.
Okay.
He just thought he was gonna be.
He's gonna be. What's the word we use? What's the word? He what? Exalted
exalted
himself.
himself.
Okay, he exalted himself. This is always a bad sign. Remember we talked about last week, what is when a nation or when the leadership of the country forgets God, it always fails.
Yes.
It always fails. And that's what we're gonna see here. So,
Yeah, that's really good sense.
yeah, he exalted himself and said,
I'm king.
I will be king. Now, what's the circumstances? We see David, and all he's worried about is staying warm and having a good-looking lady take care of him, right? The rest of everything else, he's not too worried about it, right?
He's got 6 sons, so I'm sure that he thinks.
Well,
Maybe.
three of them are already dead,
That's right.
and 3 are still there, still living. And so he has really paid a price for his, what's the word you want to use? Lack of attention to the family. Indulgence. Because what are some of the things that we see about the problem? We see in verse 5, Adonijah says, I'm going to be the king. So he prepares for himself chariots and horsemen with 50 men to run before him. So Adonijah behaves as king. Okay, he's got chariots and horses and men. And they're going through the street. We're going to talk a little bit about where he did this and why he did it that way. But what is the problem with David? We see that in verse 6. What did David do?
Never cost him.
David never disciplined Adonijah. Never cost him. He never said, now don't do that. You better not do that. Right? Now, what else do we know about Adonijah?
He's very handsome.
Okay, very handsome. And he came after who?
Excellent.
Absalom. Now, there's something about that. What should Adonijah have seen? What would he have done?
What happened to Absalom?
What happened to Absalom? You know, he may be good looking, but he doesn't have much brain. You know what I mean? He's like, why doesn't he see what he's doing? I would say that he probably thinks, I can do it better. You know, I saw what he screwed up. Like what he should have done is what I'm doing. You see, he took all the horses and chariots and he made this big scene in front of everybody. Now, what do you think the people are going to think when they see that? Because David's locked up with the babe, with
Right, new king.
new king. Because he is behaving like a king. What are people attracted to in leaders? Power, looks, what else? Money, right?
Speech.
Success, like in charge, charisma. I think Adonijah had that.
Yeah.
And he also had an example in his older brother of what not to do, right? I'm not gonna do it that way. I have a better way. I'm gonna do it this way. And I'm gonna win because, you know, Dad's all in this room. He doesn't know what's going on. Now, one of the things that we know about David is that his mental capacity is not diminished. That's right. Like he does understand, right? He is in bad health, but he does have a good brain. So he's still functioning mentally, but he's just very concerned about being warm. I mean, I have days when I feel that way too. I'm just so and so I get it. I get that. But here's the thing. he's making such a big scene. What else did Adonijah do? 7 through 10, what did he do?
Well, he conferred with Joab.
Okay, so Adonijah, this is a problem. He spoke with Joab. Who else?
And Abiathar.
Yeah. Priest. Who else? Think about what he did. The priest
Zadok.
and that no, but that he didn't speak with him.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay, verse 7, it says, he conferred, he met with Joab, the Zeruite, and Abiathar, the priest. Okay, so what is who's Joab?
The leader of the army.
Army.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Abiathar, priest. So he's got the army and the church. Is that something that we see that's pretty common in dictatorships? It's a tried and true way of doing things, right?
When I saw that Abiathar and Joab went along with Adonijah, I surprised me because I had always thought that they were loyal to David, but they were betraying David by doing that. But I
Absolutely.
think Joab was loyal to David. Yeah, at first.
At first he was.
But Adonijah had throughout a big power persuasion.
Yeah.
They're taking care of themselves. Because they know what David's
Yeah.
doing.
Right.
They think they know what's coming and they want to be on the right side.
Exactly.
They know he's going.
That's right. So, yeah, and so he went to Enrogel. And he went, so Adonijah goes to Enrogel. It means fount of the fuller. It's a spring just north of Jerusalem. And it's a permanent source of the pool of Siloam. It's where the pool of Siloam is fed from this Enrogel, okay? This is where the messengers were hiding out during Absalom's rebellion. So he goes to the same place that Absalom started his rebellion. Well, that's pretty stupid. Okay, and he does not invite Zadok, Benaniah, Nathan, Shimei, Ray, and the men who belong to David, because why?
Because they were loyal to David.
Right.
And I think they knew that they were loyal to David and that they would not betray us.
Who was not on that list also? Yes. Okay. And he did not, and not Solomon either. You know, that was. Now, so that's kind of an interesting thing. Solomon's young. You know, he's between, and maybe as young as 15, maybe as old as 20, but he's much younger than his brother. And it says something about Solomon's character early on, that it was clear who of Solomon was loyal to, and he wasn't going to be sucked into this kind of stuff. So,
Excuse me, you think that David kind of favored Solomon?
well, Solomon, he definitely knew, because what was it that Nathan the prophet, what had they all said about Solomon? That he would build
the temple and that.
he would be king.
Well, that's what God said.
Yes,
That's not what they said.
right. But it was prophesied,
Right.
and it was made publicly known. Was that?
When was that prophesied?
Oh, that was prophesied way back. I wrote it down here somewhere.
So they knew that
Yeah,
he was
First
he
Chronicles.
was favored of God. and
Oh,
he
yeah.
was gonna be-
There's no
So
question
they
about
tried
it.
to circumvent that.
And you see, the reason we know that is because of how David's behaving. So you know that this is supposed to happen. You're not gonna sit around second guessing it, because this is what's gonna happen. He's already put down 3 sons, right? Heartbreaking to him, and no wonder he would not cross his 4th son. You know, I mean, that's a really hard thing to do. And he wants Adonijah to fall in line with what God's going to do. There's another thing about this that's very important. He's only the second king. Okay, so there had not been an established transition of reign from one father to son, father to son, father to son. Okay, that was not established in this.
So David was only the second.
Only the second king.
And God anointed each of the king.
God anointed the king.
And Adonijah didn't wait for God.
Oh, no, because he had decided. I'm older, I'm smarter, I'm the oldest living son.
So he probably felt like it was his right to be the next one.
What I find strange is that David was king, and Adonijah proclaimed himself king, right? By all practical purposes, he proclaimed. Where was David? Wouldn't you think? And I guess that means there not being an established concept.
Well, it's good.
But I know, but I think that the people would go, "Where's David? Where's King David? Why doesn't he tell us that who's king?"
Well, that's when Bathsheba went to him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Right,
that's going on,
exactly.
but yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
surprised.
Yeah, well, because we're thinking in terms of David knows everything that's going on. And that's not the case. David is only concerned about the end of his life. He's at the end of his life. He's got his brains. He knows he's not a dummy. And the reason we know that that's true is because if Adonijah had really thought that David was weak and impotent and couldn't do anything, instead of not inviting these loyal men, what would he have done? Off their head. But he didn't do that. Now that's
was scared to.
that's pretty foolish. That's pretty dang foolish. If he had done that though, what would that have said to the nation of Israel?
That David was still king.
That David did not agree with for sure.
Yeah.
Because these men were very loyal to David, and David was the beloved king, no matter what. He was loved by the people. So Adonijah is trying to play both sides. He's trying to get the whole thing figured out the best way that he can. So he is trying to figure out how to do this, and he figures he's going to have this big party. The other thing that Adonijah did, what did he do? Verse 9 and 10. Sacrifice. So he's very handsome. And what else does this son know how to do? Knows to sacrifice. Yeah. Where did he sacrifice?
Stone nose, so
Okay, yes.
near. and
Yeah.
row.
I'm trying to find it. If I wrote it, I don't think I wrote it down, dang it.
Verse 9.
In Rodale.
No, I know, but it's beside Rogel, but I wrote down what that meant because it was kind of an important thing, and I guess I didn't get it down there, so dang it. Anyway, we'll get that later. So he knows how to sacrifice, but he's not sacrificing to God, not really. He is doing a formality for the purpose of the people.
It's a show.
It's a show, and he's saying, well, this is what will happen if the next king is going to be installed. I'm going to sacrifice. I've got the priests, I've got the army. We're all coming together. We're doing this big show sacrifice. And so he wants to sit on the throne. Is he actually on the throne?
No.
No, he's not actually on it. So then we see this next page. Let's turn the page and go to the next thing. And it is talking now about Nathan. So, boy, I tell you what a good guy Nathan is. So here's Nathan. And what does he do? He goes to who?
Bathsheba.
To Bathsheba. Why? She has David's ear. Yeah, because what is the problem with David? He was told.
when you're cold, you can't eat, don't have much.
He never disciplined Adonijah. Yeah. So this is really smart. When you gotta go talk to somebody who's not gonna be happy with your moves, you don't want to tick them off. He sends the one person that can really speak to David, and it's Bathsheba. And why is Bathsheba a good choice?
Which isn't she somebody's mother?
Yes, she's
Solomon-
mother.
Solomon.
So, yeah, and so that was her.
And what's the deal about this choice? What's the deal about this choice? What's going on? What does she say?
She's getting him to understand. To me, she's trying to remind him, you have said, Solomon, don't you remember you said Solomon will be king?
So this is public information,
Right.
right? Because Bathsheba knows, and Nathan knows, who else would know? That if the priest would know, all these people would know that it's supposed to be Solomon. And so she comes, what kind of personality is Bathsheba? What do you learn about her? How does she appear to you in this, in these verses? Think about what she's doing.
I think she's brave. I think she's taken up for herself.
Right.
She's taken up for that.
Yeah, okay, let's talk about Nathan for a second, right before that. What is Nathan like? Because who is Nathan?
Nathan's the one that told David he was the man. He told him to worry about sinning.
And so how do you think Bathsheba would feel about Nathan? How do you think Nathan would feel about Bathsheba?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I looked up something on Bathsheba.
Mhm.
Was Nathan her son?
No, he was the priest.
I know he was the priest, and
He was not her son.
I looked at something different.
Okay,
And I
now,
thought anyway, there probably was some love lost between the two.
I don't think so.
Because he was condemning she and David both.
Right, right. And so, what does this tell you?
He was condemning she and David both.
Oh, yeah.
for their sin.
Absolutely.
But
Because where
David
was,
was king and David sent for her.
yes, but where was she?
On the rooftop.
Where he could see.
And he was supposed to be on the battlefield and
But so, I think it's a both and. He was doing what he shouldn't have been doing. Yeah. She was doing what she shouldn't have been doing. And they both did what they shouldn't be doing together. Okay.
And then he compounded it by killing her husband.
Yeah. So it's a pretty tough situation. She's Solomon's mother. Nathan goes to her, right? Yeah.
Now,
And
Solomon
tells her.
was his son number 2,
Yeah.
because his first son died because God
That's
said.
it. That's what, son number 2. Okay. 6 wives, 6 sons.
But 3 of them were already
Already
dead.
dead.
before all this started.
Right. So Nathan spoke to Bathsheba, the mother of Solomon, saying, have you not heard that Adonijah, the son of Haggith, has become king, and David our Lord does not know it? Now, there's some important things going on here. Because he's saying, hey, he is behaving like the king. People think he's the king. Okay? And why don't you know this?
What, that she did the route of making him feel like he should have been out there doing something about it already, David.
Well, David couldn't do that.
No.
But what is going on here? What do you think is happening? What's the problem with the leadership of Israel right now?
For a good many.
They just closeted.
He's in the room. No one can get to him except his nurse, except his wife.
Right?
And he's not hearing the news. And his son probably thinks he's in a lot worse shape than he really is because he.
Right? Right, because he's old and dying.
Yeah.
And the people that are around him, are they doing him a good service by keeping up with what's going on?
No, they're not.
Because shouldn't she have immediately when she saw that?
Right.
But she apparently didn't know. Well, I wonder why. Why wouldn't she know?
They're living a good life.
They're
Everything's
sheltered.
fine,
Yeah.
everything's fine.
Yeah.
It's all okay.
What's happening? What's happening? Have you talked to anybody that's really surprised at where our country is gone? No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
If people are like, I don't know what's happening. I can't believe it's happening.
Places.
Complacency is the key here. You see, David will not discipline. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
They know he's not gonna do anything about it. They don't think, but Nathan goes to Bathsheba because Bathsheba is the key, right? And what is Nathan's, attitude about all this? How does he feel about the kingdom and David? What kind of person is Nathan?
He's a
Rose David.
He's a true friend, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a prophet.
And he's concerned.
He's concerned. He's a true friend. And who's he the most concerned about?
Solomon.
Above David,
Oh, yeah, whether they're following God.
Yeah.
whether they're following God.
So he
So
knows the plan.
he knows the plan. And so he's upholding the plan. What is the definition of a true friend?
Ones that will confront you.
For your good.
In love, truly
In
in
love.
love.
Because that David is God's man, anointed by the Lord, right? Nathan knows this. And he knows that David and Bathsheba have been kind of hanging out. He's at the end of his life. He can kind of understand how that can happen. But he's still the king. He's still alive. He still has a responsibility. When does our responsibility end as believers? That's it. That's right. There never is a time that we are not responsible. We are always responsible for what God has placed before us.
You know, David is giving the appearance of either not caring what's going on, right, or not knowing what's going on.
Right.
And either way, that's a
Big
big
problem.
big problem.
That's just so bad, isn't it? Kind of
Not
scary.
caring or not knowing.
I think he just didn't know. I don't think he didn't care, but everybody's protecting him and keeping him
He
safe.
thought it was going just like it always had.
Well, he thinks the plan is set and what could possibly go wrong. I'm just saying.
All through
I
the
think-
Bible.
Yeah, there's a problem here. So there's not a formal thing going. So, Nathan comes in and he says, hey, Bathsheba, we need to do something here. But verse 12, I thought was very touching. He says, let me give you counsel and save your life
The life of his
and
son.
the life of your son. So what does that say about Nathan?
Well, he knows how to appeal to her.
But what else?
Loyal.
He is loyal and accepts what God does. Now, God causes all things to work out together for good to those who love him, right? Bathsheba and David should never have been in a relationship, right? Well, that should never have happened, but when it did happen, what did God do with David? How was this a good for David? How was it, how did this cause David to grow?
When he confesses sin to God and asks for forgiveness.
And then what did we do? What happened then? What
He
changed
lost
the
his
son?
son.
He was humble
Yeah.
and he served the Lord much more faithfully. Because you see, when you're really
Yeah.
a talented person and you have a lot of ability and everything seems to be going well, what does God help us to understand? He allows things into our lives so that we can understand, that, you know what, this is really the Lord that's making it possible.
Yeah.
It's not my talent, it's not my ability. I overstepped my bounds, I went too far. I killed a man and took his wife, got her pregnant, and then lost the baby. Hey, that's a lesson learned,
Yeah.
right? So Nathan forgives him and is doing something I think is pretty amazing. Because he could have said, we'll get another king, you know, Adonijah can't be that bad, I'll just work with him. We didn't do that. He said God is the one that anointed this person. Bathsheba is his mother, and I'm gonna make sure that Bathsheba and Solomon live. That's a pretty
Was
powerful
that
thing.
she was more favored by David? Or you think all?
Oh, I think she was favored by David.
So not,
But God is the one that appointed Solomon,
right,
even if she was the most favored. So he tells her, this is how to do it. Go to the king and tell him what's going on and ask him, do you want Adonijah to sit on the throne? Is that what you want? And while you're speaking, I will come in. So he says, what's the new bits of information? What's happening? When Nathan comes in, what does he do? What's he doing here? He's filling in the gaps, right?
Yes.
Right. He's filling in the gaps of information. He's telling them stuff that Adonijah has done that she doesn't even know.
Yeah.
Verse 19, he has sacrificed oxen and fatlings and sheep in abundance and has invited all the sons of the king. That's new information.
Yeah.
Except for Solomon. And Abiathar the priest and Joab the commander of the army, and he has not invited Solomon. And as for you now, my lord the king, the eyes of all Israel on you to tell them who shall sit on the throne of my lord the king after him. Oh, otherwise it will come about that as soon as my lord the king sleeps and his father to his fathers, that I and my son Solomon will be considered offenders, we're going to be killed. Behold, while she was speaking with the king, Nathan the prophet came in and told the king, saying, right, here is Nathan the prophet. And he came in before the king, and he said, have you said Adonijah should be king after me, and he shall sit on my throne? And he goes on and keeps speaking. And one of the things that they say, long in verse 25, the people are saying, long live King Adonijah. Yeah. He tells them Solomon's not invited. Now, what happens here? If you haven't done this, basically, you need to deal with it. What does verse 28 tell you?
Said, call Bathsheba to me.
Okay. So there's something about this that I thought was really important. Deuteronomy 19:15 and 1 Timothy 5:19 say you have to have two witnesses, right?
Say those verses.
Two witnesses. It'll be in the notes. You'll get the notes. Deuteronomy 19:15 and 1 Timothy 5:19. Two witnesses. So what does it say about David's mental state? He's still very good. Two witnesses. He doesn't just take the word of Bathsheba.
No.
He takes the word of Bathsheba and Nathan the prophet.
Yeah.
Nathan doesn't just send Bathsheba in there. He goes in to support her. Okay? So that's really smart to do that. And then he says, it shows his relationship to the Lord, his commitment to his wife, and his heart towards Israel. So David loves Israel, he loves his wife, he loves his son, he loves the Lord. He just doesn't really know what's going on. So 32 through 40 is David commanding Solomon to become king. And what does he do?
He tells him right on his mule.
Well, he does it in the right order.
well, you call the priest.
Calls Zadok, the official priest, the head priest, right? Nathan and Benaniah, and they'll come to the king. And he says, take with you the servants of your Lord and have my son Solomon ride on my own mule and bring him down to Gihon. Now, here's the important thing about that. Gihon is the other. There were two places. There was in Rogel, and then there was Gihon, and there was Gihon is where I've got my notes here. Sorry. Two springs that supply water to Jerusalem in Rogel and Gihon. Adonijah is in Rogel celebrating his kingship. Solomon is at Gihon receiving his anointed kingship. These are the two most public places where a lot of people will be, because this is where they're getting the water. Okay? So he is making a very clear statement. He shall be king. And so they go, and then he says, blow the trumpet and say, long live King Solomon. So Adonijah's got 50 horses, 50 carriages, men blowing the horns over there and saying, this is the king, this is the king. But now we've got the real deal, right? Why did you think the people were so fooled by the actions of Adonijah?
While they were so what?
Fooled by that. Because the people that were around him were not the head people.
No.
Why do you,
Well, he had the horses, the chariots, the army, all the trappings of the king.
I was saying the show.
He had
the show.
He had done all the
He was
sacrifices.
older.
he was all over it.
He was all
He had the show.
The people just wanted a king, and David's not acting like a king. You know, earlier.
Yeah.
They don't hear about him, they don't see him.
They know he's old and dying. They think this is it.
So,
But why are we so fooled by that? What is the problem of the people? What's the problem?
Are they seeking leadership? And now it appears to have shown up before us.
Well, I think
they
that
want to get on the bandwagon.
why do people today get so easily fooled by, like the media? Why are we fooled by the media? They don't know God's real plan. What else?
Everybody's looking out for themselves.
Looking out for themselves, unconcerned, disconnected. Maybe things have been really good and, you know, this is so bad, or what's the difference between Adonijah and Solomon anyway? Why do we care about government? I mean, because we're going through this as a country right now, right?
Yeah.
If you say too much, what are you? You're just a rabble-rouser. You're just trying to stir things up. You're rabble-rousing.
Domestic terrorists.
You're domestic terrorists, but you see, what is this story telling us? What's our responsibility? To point out falsehood.
You should seek God's will, and not bury your head in the sand.
And just let the circumstances go the way they go. It's not that big a deal. One king versus another. It is, though. It is. It's a big deal. So he says, ride on a mule and blow the trumpet. He's going to sit on my throne. He's going to be king in my place. I appointed him to be ruler. And what do the men say that are with him in verse 36 and 37? Amen. That's what we need to do. And so basically 32 through 40 are when he is getting anointed. Yes. And so we have the horn of oil and the tabernacle. This is really interesting because when I started looking at this, there were two tabernacles at this time. The tent that Moses had made was actually set up in Gibeon along with the bronze altar. This tent was set up by David, the one where they're talking, in Jerusalem to have the Ark of the Covenant to be kept. And so the Ark is in Jerusalem, the bronze altar is in Gibeon at this time. That's why they had to build the temple, right? Because there were two different places. So they take the horn of oil from the tent. This is where the ark would be. They blow the trumpet. They anoint Solomon. All the people go up after him, and the people are playing flutes. It's a big party. And then what happens in verses 41 through 48?
The people are told that Adonijah will not be king.
Yep, Adonijah and all the guests hear it as they're finishing eating.
And wondering what's going on, rejoicing.
They were at the party.
Yep. What's going on? And while they were still speaking, behold, Jonathan, the son of Abigail, the priest, came. And then Adonijah said, come in, for you're a valiant man. Bring me good news. Well, that's like this again. Right there. But Jonathan replied to Adonijah, no, hey, dude, you're in trouble. David has made Solomon the king. And the king has sent with him Zadok, Nathan, Benaniah, the Cherethite, the Pelethite, and they have made him ride on the king's mule. Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet have anointed him king in Gihon, and they have come up from there rejoicing, so that the city is in an uproar. This is the noise you have heard. Solomon has taken his seat on the throne of the kingdom. Now, there's some important things that we want to look at in here. And here is, what's the difference between fake and real here? The real anointing is going to have certain elements that the fake one didn't have. What are they? It's going to be the mule. Now, this sounds kind of silly in a way, but wouldn't that be similar to like a scepter or a chariot or some symbol? It's a royal symbol.
I saw that on the mule.
On King David's mule. They would know that. It'd be that mule's gonna look unlike any other mule.
Now, I don't understand why a mule from the beginning.
It goes back to,
I mean, why not a horse?
it was, okay, how did Jesus enter? Okay. This-
I think that's real significant.
It is real significant. It's a picture of humble. Okay. He's not coming in as a warrior on a horse, chopping through his head back. It's a humble thing.
Now,
So he comes in on the royal mule. And I mean, that's not how I want to come in, but whatever. What else does he have happens here? He comes in on the royal mule, right? And he is anointed with the oil. Yep. It is the shofar is blown. That's the trumpet that announces who he is. What else happens? He got on the throne. And he is on the throne. So that is the king's seat, right? Adonijah has exalted himself. He might be behaving as a king. He had a feast with the second class leaders under the first class leaders, right? But he didn't have any of the other stuff. And the people, were they looking for that, or did they miss it?
They mixed that.
What do you look for in a leader? What are some of the qualifications of a leader?
Honesty.
presence.
Honesty, presence,
They follow the Lord.
that he follows the Lord. Think about the things that we get fooled by. Does he have to be good looking?
No, he doesn't have to be.
The first king of Israel was Saul, and he was ahead of the top of everybody else. And when they annoyed him, what did he do? He ran and he hid among the luggage. He's like, don't, no, 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 I don't want to do that, right? No, I want me. He was good looking and the worst king they could ever have. Because he wasn't faithful to the Lord. You see, a leader is somebody who's going to have all of the ingredients that God declares as being leadership. Not the show that we look for. We often look for the charismatic guy who can really, like, he's going to bring so many people to church. He's going to be the best guy, people love him.
And we can just, this morning, my husband said, do you remember the story of the emperors and the pharaohs? Do you know that story? Yes. So the emperor is walking around and everyone is saying, oh, it's so great, look at him, he's so wonderful, so etc. And some little voice says, it's never. And then people got innocent. You know, people's eyes are open like, how do you feel? How did this happen? And that reminds me of
That is exactly what I thought. It might have been my notes somewhere. I think that story, I might have written that somewhere in there. It is a tragedy that we are so easily fooled.
Going on right now.
Well, let's not worry about the government. That's a bad thing.
Yeah.
What are we fooled about in our churches?
Oh, yeah.
Why is the church so weak today?
Where do we begin?
Well, besides the evil that lives around us constantly and it has become so prevalent in our lives, that we concentrate on the strategies that we should get rid of. And there are many, many of them.
But some new churches are more interested in growing their numbers and their budget than they are in actually
Teaching people the word.
the way we should live.
And being, I mean, we both confront people. And confrontation is a hard thing, don't get me wrong. We need to do it for the right motive and in the right way, for the redemption of the person, not to tear them down. We sometimes do that. I'm not promoting cutting somebody off at the knee. But we also do not deal with situations because it's hard. Or, you know,
Well, they're scared to say anything because they think no, the congregational lead, you know.
And so what happens to the congregation when somebody in leadership is left to run that congregation? Who is not faithful? How does the church pay for that?
And people will not be saved. They won't be following the Bible.
Could be lips, right?
And
And
it's
so then
happening
it's
live.
okay. Look, I talk to people all the time. I had a particular pastor tell me, a female pastor tell me that, which I'm opposed to that, by the way. But a female pastor told me, well, we have to hire that guy to play music. I mean, I know he's gay, but
Yeah. We had some walk out because members that left our church because,
he called out homosexuality.
well, his band has a brother that, you know,
Yeah.
has a brother that was gay. And he told a story, you know, that the brother died of AIDS. And it was sadness. And
See, the thing is that we all have people in our lives that are living, not just homosexuality,
Like
living
kids.
together, doing all kinds of things. I'm not finger pointing to any particular sin because they're all there. But that's not the same thing as in the church. And so the church, what is the purpose of the church? What are we supposed to be doing as a savings that teaching about God? Teaching about God and what else? What are we supposed to be?
We're supposed to solve right
Light and
or
salt,
Yeah.
light and salt, the bride of Christ. We're supposed to be a community that supports one another. We shouldn't be tearing each other down and making it difficult and pointing out what somebody's wearing. versus what they're not wearing, what the carpet looks like, and whether or not we've got enough programs. Those are all great things, but those things are distractions from having a relationship with the people in your fellowship. That, am I a trustworthy person in my church? Can people come to me and talk to me? Am I interested in what happens to the people outside of those four walls? Do I care? Am I sleeping, trying to get myself warm because I need my own comforts? Rather than being concerned about the gal next to me who doesn't have the money to pay her electric bill. Yeah. Who's in the church praying, hoping for God to deliver. I mean, we have to ask ourselves in the church, what are we doing? And why do these things keep happening? How have we fallen so far? I mean, God's in charge, don't get me wrong. He knows what he's doing. But I just wonder if we do.
So Cathy, the church needs to be welcoming
Yes,
and loving. Right? We need all of that.
right.
But when we come, we continue to have the standard of the Bible in front of them.
Okay, so how do we do that?
And that's
Okay.
really the hard part.
Okay, why is it the hard part? I'm gonna ask you, why is it the hard part?
Because people aren't making those statements.
Okay, this
Because
God
I'm
is,
David, I'm not a good person.
That's
yeah, he never disciplined Adonijah.
That's what we do is
We want to be that way. Now, what is that? What does that say if we don't do that? What does it say about our faith in God?
I think it says a lot about that. Yeah, that we a lot about that.
Who saves? Who saves people?
Jesus.
Only God, only Jesus can save people. I cannot save people.
No.
I talk to 160 inmates every single week. Are they all saved? Absolutely not. They get me whether they like it or not, because they're a Catholic audience.
And you really need Captain.
And I mean Catholic. But the thing is that, and when I confront somebody, and I have definitely done that, it's not in terms of harming that person. It's getting the wound things out and saying to them, see, the problem is we don't take time with people. We don't sit down with them and say, well, why is that going on? Or what happened? And then they start talking in their eyes of those, all right, I have to be somewhere.
It's all a bunch of excuses.
I don't want you to know that.
I just want to know how you're doing.
Yeah. Just say fine.
Or now, what is this going to cost me? I just want to know how it works, but now what's the cost to me? I don't even know. What's the cost? Yeah, am I going to have to spend more time? Am I going to have to take them out to dinner? Am I going to have to give them money to feed the kids? What's the cost to me?
Pretty convicting, yeah, me. Because you see, David, he had a good brain, but he had bad health, right? And he let his circumstances direct what he was doing, rather than paying attention to what God had really called him to do. So when we start doing those kinds of things, first of all, we're just missing out on a blessing. We're just missing out on the opportunity to talk to somebody and tell them about who Jesus is in a way that is uniting, a way that's comforting, and a way that helps them see that we really do care about them. How did any of you guys get to it? Did you just grow up and they decide on the 50s? Or did somebody come and talk to you? Oh, yeah. I got saved over a series. It took about 5 years to finally get me to bow the knee, but there was somebody that took an interest in me that changed my life for eternity. Yeah. And so I just think that we're so worried about fitting in, and this is not our home. It's not what we're going to be for eternity. And, I'm very grieved about my own family, members of my own family are not safe. I pray every day for those family members. Send the person. It isn't me. I know that it isn't me because I'm mom. And mom can be a little harsh. You can imagine me being somebody's mother. It's not pleasant. I can be very direct and kind of harsh, and I don't mean to be that way, but God is moving in their lives, and my son got saved. That's an amazing word. It had nothing to do with me except I prayed for him.
So that you had a lot to do with you.
I know, but I wasn't the one. He sent
We
somebody.
don't planter. We don't do the work. No, we don't do the final work. You know, you said something last year when we were still in the village that resonated with me. It was, do we really mourn the sin, or do we just want to be right?
Oh, yeah. We want to be right, or we want to be righteous.
I pray that somebody else goes to my children, because they're not going to me back. That's
You just
what I
said,
pray
you old crazy mom.
for. Uh-huh.
I know, I get that.
Yeah, they gotta take care of me now.
That's a good thing. So, what happens next? Let's see, where are we at? The people react to this event, they're happy.
Yeah.
How did Adonijah's men react? Terrified. What did Adonijah do?
He grabbed hold of the altar and wouldn't let go.
Praise God. I mean, I did a bad thing. I admit it, but you know, say
They thought he was gonna get away with it.
Yeah.
They didn't realize he wasn't.
Yeah, what are the horns of the altar?
Yes.
the horns of the altar, the altar is very, very big. And it's like this little well section on the corners where the horns is where they generally tie the animal down for sacrifice.
So the horns on them, yeah, not the.
No, they're just like a little hook thing on the four corners of the altar. I actually looked that up and I
Is
didn't
that
put it
the
in my notes.
sacrificial altar for the?
That's the big altar. Yeah.
They do the animals.
Yeah. So the bronze altar is not in the Holy of Holies or the holy place, it's in front of
But
it.
this is the priest supposed to do, or aren't they?
No, men can-
supposed to be-
Men can go to the bronze altar. Men can do that. And what they used to do was
And this is the bronze altar.
bronze altar. So you have in the court, the outer court, you have the bronze altar, the bronze lady. Then in the holy place, you're gonna have the showbread, the candlestick and the, seven bread candlestick, and then the incense. And then the holy of holies behind the curtain is where you're gonna have the ark of the covenant. Okay? So what they used to do traditionally, and I used to know when that changed, but I think it was later on in the king, so I have to look that up. But when they did sacrifices, the Passover sacrificial one was raised by the family for a year in the house with them, in the house as like a fast. And then the father would take that lamb to the bronze altar and he would slit its throat and sacrifice the
Raise it
father.
like a pit and give it sacrifice it. That's brutal.
But what is that
But
a
that's what-
picture of?
Oh, Jesus sacrifice.
God
Yeah.
sacrificing his own son.
Yeah.
So God was teaching from the very beginning. The cost of sin is a sacrifice, and that sacrifice is painful. Right? To be covered by the blood. So yeah, it's a very, very amazing thing. So he goes running, it says, all the guests of Adonijah were terrified. They arose, each went his own way. Boy,
Party broke up.
yeah, well, talk about friends.
Scattered.
Yeah, talk about friends. This is a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
So verse 50, Adonijah was afraid of Solomon. Well, I bet he was. He went and took hold of the horns of the altar. Now it was told Solomon, saying, behold, Adonijah is afraid of King Solomon, for behold, he's taken hold of the horns of the altar, saying, let the king swear to me today that he won't put his servant to death with the sword.
Now I'm serving.
So he was really a little man.
He was a,
You're right, now he's the servant.
Yeah.
The king is servant.
There was, his plan all along was to kill Solomon.
absolutely.
He's begging for
It
them.
said, if he is a worthy man, not one hair of his head will fall to the ground, but if wickedness is found in him, he will die. So they brought him down from the altar, came and prostrated himself before King Solomon, and King Solomon said, go to your house. Now that's a very interesting thing. I don't know if I would have done that. Now, it is believed that Solomon and David ruled about 2 years co-ruled together. But, you know, David hasn't quite died yet, right?
Quite done yet.
He hasn't quite died yet. So the first 4 verses of chapter 2, what does David tell Solomon? So let's talk about, again, do a little thing in the middle here, look at Solomon. Chapter 2, what does he say?
Well, he instructs him, he gives him instructions, this is what we're gonna have to do.
He's gonna die, be a man.
Be a man.
Yeah, he's basically saying, be a man.
Yeah.
Be a man. Now, I was at a conference and I heard something that was so, it was, Colonel Allen West was speaking. He told the story of the, I know, he's a great speaker. He told the story of the, that movie of 300, the Greeks that fought against, Artaxerxes. And he said, there's a scene in that movie where the soldiers are marching out and all the women and the children and young boys are standing on either side of the street and they're crying and they're weeping. He said, everybody thinks they're crying and weeping because they're losing their family. Those men are going off the war. He said, they're crying because they can't go. Because their children did not get accepted. Because they were not able to go with them and fight and get things to their land. He said, in that culture, a boy at 9 years old, the mother gave that child to the military, and they were raised in the military to fight for their country from the age of 9. And any young boys that were standing on the side did not qualify. So they were crying because they couldn't go. That's convicting. That is very convicting. And that's basically what David is telling Solomon. Be a man and defend your land. Defend your people. Because he says in verse 4, so that the Lord may carry out his promise which he spoke concerning me, saying, if your sons are careful of their ways to walk before me in truth with all their heart, with all their soul, you shall not lack a man in the throne of Israel. So what was he saying? Be a man, you have a responsibility. To your, your ministry. It's a ministry. I was not a very big mom. There's a lot of things that I didn't do that I should have done. Right? I wasn't responsible enough. I wasn't a good woman of the Lord when I was a young mom. I'm better now, but still, there's a lot of things that I didn't do well. But that doesn't mean that God can't use me, or that he isn't faithful, or that he won't change things. And I know friends who were great moms, who did awesome things. I wish I could be like that mom and make kids do dumb things. We are not, up to a point, we are responsible, but then after a certain point, they are responsible. And so we just have to recognize that. But the thing is that Solomon got the charge from his dad. And what did Solomon do? Listen. Listen, he saw firsthand the consequence of what it is to be king before he actually sat on the throne. He saw his older brothers, I don't know if he was alive when some of his brothers were killed or not, I don't know. But he saw the consequence there. It was sobering, and his dad did not forget to make sure that he knew about it. He's then verses 5 and 6. What does David tell him to do? Okay, he tells him one couple things to do.
Tells him about Joab.
Okay, so talk about Joab. And I tell you what, Joab, what did he do? He killed Absalom against David's command. He killed Abner against David's command. He killed Amasa to get his old job back. And he sided with Adonijah. So the first thing he says is, kill him. Yeah. When I got this, but I really had to think about this. You know, do we see this kind of political thing going on today? Okay, yeah.
I don't think it's not.
You're not physically killing them, but
No.
maybe.
It's against the law for us to kill them. There's some of them that I can probably interview for them.
You know, this is being recorded. I absolve myself from any commentary to the people out there.
God's not let us to do that yet, but.
No, the time to come. But I want you to think, I had to really think about this. I had to really think about what do we see in politics today? What
Well,
do we
it's
see
not
to
even
go
of people's,
character?
character.
Character assassination.
Yeah.
Trying to destroy their lives. Well, some of the, it's just out in their mind. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they act like they have facts,
Oh,
but you can check those facts. And you're going, but there's a new ad on TV about abortion and about Abbott's, what's been signed into agreement about abortion. And this couple is sitting there, older couple, not kids. And she goes, only 11% of the people agree with what he's doing. I'm going, how does it talk? I don't know.
Yeah. But I like it that,
Where did you pull that number out of? Yeah.
that David
Yeah.
was saying to him, here's what he did, you know, the
Yeah.
facts here.
you know the facts. You know what he's done. He deserves.
You cannot trust him.
He's not trustworthy, he deserves to be taken out. So what I'm trying to get at, is we're going to, then there's Shimei, right? And then, of course, he deals with Adonijah, but he deals with them later, and we're gonna get to that, so we need to get to that, because I'm gonna run out of time. So, there is something about this that I think is applicable today. We need to identify those who are working against us and remove them. How do we do that in the church?
I would take care of it and not do that.
Not actually physically killing.
Bring his gray hair down and shield.
We need to look at, the responsibility to your ministry. Because I have a responsibility to my ministry. And we need to, that needs to be the basis for why we do what we do. How is this inhibiting what God has actually called me to do? And then we need to do it. I'm not saying it's easy, I'm so glad that I don't have to always do that, but I have had to do that. So in verse 7, he says, give kindness to these people because Barzillai, the Gileadite, he assisted David. And then verses 8 and 9, punish Shimei. Because he was rude, right?
Cursing.
And then we see David died. That's over here.
And David slept with his father.
he died. 2:10. All right,
He reigned for 40 years.
yep. And Solomon sat on the throne of David his father, and his kingdom was firmly established. So by the time that David dies, Solomon's reign established. It's been established. Okay, now we're gonna go into this big thing here with Adonijah. What's going on with him? What's Adonijah doing?
He's asking for, Abishag. That's what Adonijah wants.
Right?
Now, I guess he thinks he deserves that because he's a brother.
He will not give up.
What is it that Adonijah is doing? He's still
That's you, if you went there.
on
That's Jesus.
the throne. Still trying to find a way to get the thing. Now, at first, when I was thinking about Bathsheba, what is going on here? But I really think Bathsheba is wise. Because she said, let me talk to the king about Abishag. So she goes and she tells Solomon, and Solomon knows immediately. He's trying to get the kingdom. Yeah. So she is, what has Bathsheba and Solomon's and the leaders learned? There's now a new reign. That David's old reign, now we've got Solomon. What is it that they've learned?
Can't trust Adonijah.
Well, that's for sure. Go to the king and tell him what's going on.
Yeah, for everything.
Go tell him. So we go through this whole big thing,
Oh, yeah.
and he says, he said, speak, verse 15, he said, you know that the kingdom is mine now. Israel expected me to be the king. However, the kingdom has turned about and become my brother's, for it was his from the Lord. The dude understands.
Yeah.
Why would he say that? How ridiculous. I'm making a request, don't refuse. So she said, he wants, Adonijah wants the Shunammite woman, Abishag. I wrote something about that, but I guess I didn't anyway. He wants her to be his wife, and Solomon says,
Why?
are you crazy? Yep,
Exactly.
right. And he says, the king Solomon swore by the Lord, saying, may God do so to me, and more also, if Adonijah has not spoken this word against his own life. Surely Adonijah will be put to death today. And he puts him to death.
Well, because he was just gonna have to keep on and on.
Then what happens to,
Fun ball.
yeah, what happens to Abathar? So, Adonijah was put to death because he still wants the throne,
He's a threat.
right? And he is definitely a threat. And then what happens next? What's the next one? Abathar.
Believe that his deeds.
Who is this guy?
So he carried the ark of the Lord God before my father David.
He is of the lineage of Eli.
Of evil.
First Samuel 2:31. Who was Eli? Who were his two sons? What did they do? They lost the ark to the Philistines. They
But also
were
his sons were
wicked.
sleeping with the women that served
Right.
the tabernacle.
Oh, they was awful.
He lost the ark.
Lost
His
the ark.
sons lost the
Yeah.
ark.
First Samuel 2:31. And God said, no man
of your line, of Eli's line specifically, will live to old age. They're all gonna die. And he was removed as priest. So he was basically, that's as good as dying. Right? 28 to 35, Joab gets dealt with. And what does he do? He goes to the horns of the altar. He goes to the tent. What's with these guys? They're all doing that. They all keep running to do those things. Oh my goodness. So he's saying, oh, we need to, save me. Verse 33, so shall their blood return on the head of Job and the head of his descendants forever. But to David and his descendants and his house and his sons, may there be peace from the Lord forever. And verse 34, Benaniah, the son of Jehoiada, went up and fell on him and put him to death, and he was buried in his own house in the wilderness. Benaniah was appointed as leader over the army. And Zadok was a priest in the place of Abigail, and then Shimei. What an idiot this Shimei is. Who is Shimei, you know? Shimei was not just the guy who cursed David. He was the tribe of Benjamin. He was a relative of King Saul, and he was actually a threat to Solomon's throne. He actually was, because Saul was the first king, and there were people who still wanted the Benjamites to be. So he says, I'm gonna set you aside. He's got 3 years, verse 39. He sent them out, right? And it came about at the end of 3 years that two of the servants of Shimei ran away, and they told Shimei, and he says, I'm gonna go get him. What an idiot. And it was told that to Solomon that he's gone from Jerusalem to Gath and had returned. Now, you're the king, you have to wipe out all these people. There's lots of drama at your coronation, right? Spend 3 to 5 years, somewhere around that, right? Since he's been a king. And he's had to put everybody down. And Shimei, he's given him a chance. And what did Shimei do? He got very confident, didn't he? And got stupid. He let down his guard. It was really sad in a way. Verse 42. So the king sent and called Shimei and said to him, did I not make you swear by the word of the psalm you warned me, saying, you will know for certain that on the day you depart and go anywhere, you shall surely die. And you said to me, the word that I said is good. Why then did you not keep the oath of the Lord and the command which I have laid on you? You know all the evil which you acknowledged in your heart that you did to my father David. Therefore, evil's coming on you. The king Solomon shall be blessed, and the throne of David shall be established forever. So the king commanded Benaniah, the son of Jehoiada, and he went out and fell on him so that he died. And what's the last sentence? Thus, the kingdom was established in the hand of Solomon.
So the between counts.
This is hard to
Yeah.
The threats are wrong.
What is necessary to establish the work of the Lord? What is the plan? And there's a lot in the study. There's a lot in the study, more than I could possibly even cover today. But what do we see is the problem? If you wanted to explain these 2 chapters to somebody, how would you do it? How would you explain what's happened here? I've been to Bible study with Cathy. Let me tell you what happened. What would you say?
Sometimes for things to turn to good, you have to get rid of the evil. You have to get rid of evil, you have to disassociate yourself with that in order for the good to continue in obedience to God.
Okay. Let's write down a couple of things. Very important to think about what is going on here. So in order to be obedient to the Lord, we must clean out things that distract us. Or then we'll just say that harm our relationship with God. With God. What else did we learn?
Some of those things sometimes are people. And that's hard for, we come into that, we realize that we have been there with God 1, 2, 3, and you're thinking, I'm gonna be rejected by my friends. I'm gonna be rejected by the
People
life
don't
I had.
understand.
They're not gonna understand. Sometimes you have to pull away.
What else?
Well, God calls us to do hard things and we can't shy away.
But
I'm gonna say it a little bit differently. You need to trust him. You need to trust that he's gonna do it. If he's called you to it, he's going to equip us to do it.
If
So-
you don't, someone else will call someone else.
So what is it that we need to be sure of before we go?
And it's God's will.
That we've been called? How do we know that we've been called? Think about some times when things have happened that you realize God called you to do something. How do we know?
Which peace
Huh?
Peace
Peace,
and situations are consistently good.
peace. How about the word
Yes.
confirms it? Who else is gonna confirm it?
Good people.
People. People will start confirming something. How about it becomes, it is not hard to, I'm not saying it quite right, but you get an open door. Doors open. That's what it is. So what do we have to do in order for us to recognize this?
seek God.
Seek God. Means we gotta be praying, we gotta be reading, we gotta be trusting. And we have to be looking at the things that have gone around us and say, this is something, I mean, I'm done. I've had times somebody comes in like, Lord, help me. Why do you still have this person coming to me? Because really, I don't want to see them anymore to make them mad. And God just says, I have a mission for you. You know, he starts opening up the circumstances that I realize that I still have something that I have to do with this person. It's not fun. It's not always fun because some people are very hard. So, is there anything else? This has not been an amazing class.
I love this.
It's so good. It's so much. And we're just in the first 2 chapters.
No.
It's good.
So Kathy, I think about reading some. David did not get to build a temple because he was a violent man. Solomon then, in my mind, is going to be so kind, he's not going to hurt people, he's going to be the opposite, all of that. But I see him having this. So there's a difference there in being violent and in being obedient. Sometimes God calls you to do the right things that you know sometimes you just do things. You know it when you get mad. You know some things are going to happen. But not many people do that. You just can't always do that.
We can't always be sweet with the line. And I love the people that are like that.
throughout the Bible, though, God demands people to do, to kill everyone. Don't take any plunder. Don't even take the big toe. And they did.
A big
And he said, I told you not to do that. And so, yeah, the consequences when they are, consequences when they're not doing it.
Yeah. That's what they had clean the puppies out of it.
So, let's pray. Father, I know that we all have people that come to mind that we are burdened for. We might even have relationships that are difficult, that we don't know why we're in them. But Father, what we do know is that just like you anointed Solomon, you knew about his birth, you knew what you were doing long before David, Bathsheba, Saul, before there was even a king, because you are omniscient. And Father, I just pray that what we walk away from with today is an understanding that every single person who calls upon your name is called by you for a purpose and a plan. We are one body. We have one ministry. We have each other as our comfort and our strength in the midst of this very, very crooked and perverse nation that we live in. Our circumstances are very heartbreaking. But Father, you've also taught us that we can pray and we can seek you. And I ask first and foremost that you would rule and reign again in this country. Lord, we do not know when you're returning. I know it's going to be soon. I really believe that. But Father, I also believe that we have an opportunity to speak truth, and that we have an opportunity to walk in a way that honors you. And I ask you, Father, to help us each week as we seek your word to learn that. I praise you, Father, and I thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Alrighty, then.